Yeah, I'm going to talk about culture, but I can't really talk about culture without the word mentor. And it's really awesome. Like, these events are times where you just get to hang out with people. Because here's the deal. I would not be a speaker were it not for Martin Catherall. Because in 2014, he, over a beer, said to me, I reckon you should do speaking. And I said, I've got nothing to say.
Did he immediately point out that you have a lot to say?
Yeah. Yeah, I have a sentence that just keeps going and going and going and going. And yeah, I really love I loved his session. And the reason why I loved his session was about the least privileges, because I don't want to pay more indemnity insurance than I have to.
That is always a good call. That is always a very, very good call.
I just have to do one thing. I just realized. It's all about brand, even if it's way up there.
You've got it on your shirt too, so you're really, really, I feel like you're really on brand today. You're super on brand today. All right, well, I'm going to let you take it away. Holler if you need something.
Thank you. All righty, g'day everyone. I'm Hamish Watson. Here's my session on culture is vital for DevOps success. That's me. It was pretty hard, actually. I keep changing my look pretty much every 3 months, though I had to find a photo that actually kind of matched what I'm today. I'm a DevOps consultant. You'll see in the blurb, the abstract thing, that it's DevOps alchemist. It depends if I want you to hire me or not. I run my own company. I've been doing that for 3 odd years. And it's been a wild ride of just helping people do DevOps with applications and databases. I'm Microsoft Data Platform MVP, and I'm a director at large on the past board, which in itself is quite a journey. I at times wish I could apply DevOps principles to what I'm doing there. Yeah, I got my Twitter details there. The hybrid DBA. If you follow me, you'll know that one of my tagged hashtags is make stuff go. And honestly, when I say applying DevOps principles, I generally try and apply DevOps principles to everything I do in my life, which is pretty much why I only sleep 6 hours a night. And in fact, it's coming up 9 p.m. here in New Zealand right now. I'm going to go to bed at 2 past 10 p.m. and I'm getting up about 6 hours later to present again, because I like talking and I like helping people. Anyway, alrighty, we're in the middle of a pandemic. And one of the things that has occurred is that we are now distributed teams. I, in fact, work for clients, some of whom I've never actually met in person, mainly because either in another country or one of them I just took on the last week, and, you know, I haven't had a chance to get out of our little lockdown that we've got back into. But the thing is, I've noticed over the past 6 months is that being distributed like we are can either make or break your team culture. And I've seen both sides. I've seen it where companies have embraced and said, you know what, we haven't been doing things that well. We need to change things. We need to, you know, do some automation. We need to embrace infrastructure as code. And hi, I'm Hamish Watson. How can I help? And then there are other teams who it just hasn't worked at all, and it's been fractured. And the underlying thing here is around culture, around how that culture is endemic within the company and how they deal with adversity. Because here's the deal. We're all dealing with this, and I hope that you're dealing with it okay. And it is okay that if you're not dealing with it okay, that you talk to people. Because that's what culture is about as well, is making sure that we're all okay and we're going in the same direction. And if we're not, doing a helping hand, not doing comments that, don't help. So by about now, you're probably thinking, he's talking about culture. And yeah, I am. But here's the deal. When I talk about culture to technical people, they immediately think, oh no, we've got to all hold hands in a circle, look at each other and say, you're a beautiful person. Well, I got some good news. One, we're not allowed to touch each other anymore, so we can't hold hands. And two, we're all beautiful people. We don't have to hang around in a circle to do that. So this is not culture. This might be culture for you, but this is not my definition. It's not an HR thing that is there to make you awkward, looking at your boss in the eye and saying you're a beautiful person. For me, culture is where we're all having fun. We're all kind of on the same page. We might be at different stages on that page, but we're working together and having fun. For me, when I started on this DevOps journey, and for me it was back around sort of 2010, 2011 when I started getting to grips with whatever the heck this DevOps thing was. And for me at the time, it was horrible. We were embracing new technology. I had a young team of people who were fresh out of university. I was about 15 years older than them. And so we formed our own culture because they had enthusiasm. They actually looked like these people in the picture here. They were like, oh, bubbly, like talking about Scrum and Agile and source control. And I was just like, yeah, I've deleted tables in a database and been up at 3 a.m. But over time, we defined our culture, which was essentially to make stuff go. So this is the kind of culture I'm going to talk about. Earlier today, I had a golden opportunity, and thank you, Redgate. You give me some great opportunities. I was talking to a good mate of mine within the tech industry, Damien Brady. And Damien reports up through to Donovan Brown. Donovan is the principal DevOps manager at Microsoft. And the really cool thing is he's going to be on later, very early in the morning for me, with Abel Wang. So if you can stick around, please stick around for Donovan and Abel. It's awesome. I was talking to Damien about this quote because he quoted it and I was like, hey, guess what? I've got it in my session as well. And the thing is, it's really succinct description of what DevOps is. And I can't talk about, culture and DevOps without actually defining what DevOps is. The word I take from here, so you'll see it's bolded on people, process, and products. And trust me, that is the triumvirate of DevOps brilliance. But for me, those three things enable us to deliver value. And what is that value? Because the definition of value for me as an ex-DBA is rows and columns and indexes and queries. I'm sorry to tell you, that's not value. Value is what we deliver for the end user or our clients. That is the value. And we need to keep our mind on that. We need to be aligned around delivery of value. And the cool thing is, the people, the process, and the products, we're all going to come together and do it. Okay. So, in 2012, I had a wee bit of a problem on my hands because back in 2012, DevOps had been around for 3 years. It was 2009. Someone had come up with it at a conference. In 2012, I live in New Zealand. Stuff takes a while to get here, and we were spending most of the time arguing about what the heck DevOps was. The developers had an opinion, and the ops people didn't want to know. So in 2012, I came up with this definition, and this was literally what I said in a meeting. I was like, you know what? Forget all this argument. I'm sick of it. How about why don't we use our tools, create a process that lets us automate the reliable I had repeatable back then. That's fine. Deployment of software to our clients. And it kind of worked. However, I then saw Donovan's description, and I actually changed it to business value. Because here's the deal. The previous one where we talked about software managed to align developers, testers, operations people, even infrastructure people. But I had to go that next step. And it was around 2016 that I changed it to business value because I needed to engage with management. I needed them to understand where we wanted to go because, yes, this was a ground movement from grassroots, but I still needed organizational alignment and I needed an organizational goal because without that goal, we are still siloed. Yes, we were siloed in 2010, 11, 12, whatever, in the technical space, but we now had a new silo and a misalignment with the business. And by evolving that description of what DevOps meant for us and creating this goal meant that we could get on that train together. And the thing was, I came at it by identifying a problem. You know, one, our deployments are happening too rarely. You know, we're only doing them a few times a year to the database, or we're doing them manually to the database. And testing happens, well, testing might not happen. And the operations team, they're always firefighting because they're having to do things manually. They do it wrong. They don't understand what we're doing. There's a handover process that is literally throwing things over the wall. And this statement helped identify the problem, believe it or not. And it really helped, again, align us. Alrighty. Now, if you've ever heard or seen me talk on DevOps, you're going to know this slide. And I apologize. This is only one of 20 slides that I've repeated in this session. It's not. I wrote a blog post for Redgate back in the day about the 4 pillars of DevOps because in my experience, these were the 4 things we need to look at. Now, we're technical people. We need tools. And there are some great tools out there, right, that will enable you and empower you. If you are dealing with database that is not in source control, g'day, talk to my friends at Redgate. It's a game changer. So we need tools. More importantly, we need process. Because you can have the best tools, but if you are disjointed, if you are still doing those things manually, it's going to go wrong. You know, if you're editing config files for an app or, you know, or connection strings to your database, if you're doing those manually, this is the wrong process. We need to embrace levels of automation. And the thing is, we need the right people. And the best news for you is you are now those right people. You've come along to a DevOps conference for databases that is talking about the whole spectrum of DevOps. I looked at the lineup to today, tonight, tomorrow, and it's really awesome just seeing how far the spectrum of what the speakers are talking about. So we need the right kind of people. But the thing that we really need, the foundation of what we need here is culture. Because culture, in what I'm going to talk to you tonight, now, is around partnership. It's where we have all the delivery stakeholders, the people that we need to deliver value. Believe it or not, marketing are in there, sales are in there, our executives, our partners, even our clients are in this process. I'm going to say one of my famous quotes. The tools are great, but the process fails because the people don't understand the culture. Culture will always trump process. I've been saying that since 2015 because one day I sat down with Martin Catherall, speak right before me, and someone who's been a mentor for me through my career as a speaker. He got me as a, beginner speaker. And we were talking about this because we, as a business, we need to we were talking about the ins and outs of DevOps, and yeah, it dawned upon us, culture will always be the foundation you need, which is why I'm presenting tonight. Alrighty. So what generally happens is we have companies that have silos. But what we need to do is, after we've identified the problems, we need to assemble our DevOps working group. Because you've got to start small. You can't say to everyone, right, we're going to do DevOps, because half of them won't understand you. A quarter of them will not want to do it. And, 1/8 just won't know how to do it. And so you're left with this 1/8. So what you need to do is have key representatives from different parts of your organization. And so, yes, we have all these little silos here. The thing is, we've got to define that common goal, because the minute you actually do that, the minute you talk across the company about what you want to do, you're going to get different opinions. And that's great, because it's awesome to have an opinion. It's not awesome to be, mean. Because opinions matter, but just not listening, I don't want that. And so what we need to do is have an alignment across the top of our organization and filters down. And again, aligning our teams to that goal. So generally what happens when I work with clients is they go, okay, we're going to do this DevOps thing. And then they create the DevOps team, which is now a new silo. Because the DevOps team sits in the middle, and now they're the new bottleneck. So we don't want to do that. But conversely, if we're trying to look at things like cross-functional teams, like to put DevOps personnel across teams or whatever, and to be honest, I don't have a strong opinion, believe it or not, on whether you should have a DevOps team or you should have a cross-functional team with a DevOps engineer in it. You've got to do what's best for you. And if you can't decide look it up. There's 9 different ways of doing DevOps teams, and look at it, find what works for you. But what I'm about to tell you will at least remove the silo of whether you have a DevOps team or whether you decide to integrate your current cross-functional teams. We're humans. You've got to get people to know each other. So here's the deal. You've got to make a conscious effort to introduce the teams to each other on a personal level. A number of times where I go into a client site, and especially so in the past 6 months where I'm working totally remote, oh my goodness, it is so hard to try and come in and, leverage myself in and go, hey, we're going to automate using Terraform, and we'll do a little bit of ARM templates if you want. That's cool, but it's really hard to do that if I'm just, some message on a Slack channel or on Teams. So really look at the way that you can actually make this work on a human level. And I've talked about Teams and Slack. Have a good communication channel. Email doesn't work as well as it did in, the late 90s. We've got so many other ways that we can actually just chat. And we can do video, because sometimes it works where we see each other. And you know what? Sometimes it doesn't either. I work with people that are intense introverts. They don't want to see a video. Sweet as. I just do whatever works for them. And build up the team or teams in such a way that we celebrate achievements. And if someone does something, just say, this is awesome, because just that little word of encouragement makes a world of difference. And you can say it appropriately. You don't have to go over the top. But also, when stuff goes wrong, I do stuff wrong all the time. oh my goodness. I have written malformed XML at least 7 times in my life. It's pretty hard to do, but I've done it. And I ran some ARM templates the other day, and I didn't really understand what JSON was doing. And yeah, I killed a deployment. Didn't actually affect production because we were doing it, way down in the lower environments. But what we want to do is have a blame-free culture. Don't be like messaging someone going, "Oh, Hamish, I see that you don't really know how to code." It's not going to make me feel very good, and it's just not being nice. Whereas another way of dealing with that is, "Hey, is there anything I can help with? I see you doing some stuff with JSON. I develop in JSON all day. Can I help you?" Completely different, and it fosters knowledge sharing. Because I don't know everything, and I bet you don't either. You might think that you do, but you don't. But if we work together, we're going to make brilliance. So we want to get away from the silo. Alrighty, I want to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart. And Jean Kim, if I ever meet Jean, I'm going to ask Jean, "What drink do you drink?" And if Jean says green tea, I'm going to buy Jean a green tea. Jean says coffee, I'm going to buy a coffee. Jean has helped me out so much in my career, albeit completely remotely and via some of the awesome books that Jean has written. So along the way, we've identified the problem, right? We've got our goal. We've got management on board. We've got our organizational goal, and our teams are connected and communicating. We need to look at the 3 ways of DevOps. And the first one is about flow. And this is flow through our value or process stream. So from where the client, feature, request, whatever comes in, we scope it out, we get the acceptance criteria, we're starting design test through to delivery. And enabling flow means that we enable the work in the system to move quickly. But we also need to make that work and flow visible. And so one of the first things I do with people and teams is show me the work that you're working on right now. And often they can't, because it's all the hidden work, the things that are not visible to management or other members in their team. Okay, in the agile world, there's the religious wars of Scrum versus Kanban. Here's the deal. I don't really care. And people will say, "Oh, we're a Scrum team. We've got to use Scrum." I'm like, cool. I don't really care. I have a preference for Kanban because I come from an operational background. And for DevOps, being able to pull work in and push it out and deploy it out immediately just fits better with that. But again, I don't care. If we can at least get our work items visible, if we can look at least getting business stories and tasks on something so that we're collaborating with the business. We're understanding what the client wants because we have acceptance criteria, as opposed to me deciding what I'm going to do and what the sign-off process is and whether or not I'm going to make the deploys automatic. Got to do flow. So I made myself very, very, very unpopular in 2014 because I asked my staff, and especially my DBAs that used to report to me, to join development stand-ups. And they were like, "Are you kidding me? That's agile stuff." And I was like, it's business stuff. Just go along. And I got them to go along to the sprint planning sessions. And at first I got severe resistance. I said, here's the deal. Do you want to go to sprint planning and actually say, hey, wait a second, what you're doing there doesn't make sense when we deployed out the database? Or do you want to find it out at 4 a.m. when you don't actually know what the heck they were thinking? Argue with that. It's an hour and a half out of your life. I would prefer to spend the hour and a half at 10 a.m. with coffee than at 4 a.m. having to drink coffee to stay awake because everything's falling apart. Bringing people together, helping people understand the effect of what they're doing on the database. Guess what? I was doing that back in 2009, 2010, and the upshot was I learned about source control. So it's a two-way thing. The other aspect is feedback, the other way. Because here's the deal, it's great when we've got flow, when work is moving fast, but if that work is of bad quality, if it's got to constantly move back to earlier steps in our process, you know, bug discovered, requirement was misunderstood, you get the deal, right? It's not that great. Kind of demoralizing, and it's especially bad if it's 3 months after you wrote the code. I gotta be honest, I can't remember what I did 3 days ago, let alone 3 months ago. And so what we need to do is work on tight feedback loops within our system. We want a heap of small little environments in our deployment pipeline that are prod-like. They're the same setup, the same schema, everything is prod. Yeah, prod's a 1 terabyte database, but that little functional test environment is 50 meg. We've seeded it with appropriate referential data, and we know it's prod-like. So I'm going to throw everything at it, and I'll get feedback now, not in 3 months. And we want to have automated testing as part of our development. And I know that doesn't start overnight, but that's the culture we're going to have. We will write the tests now, we'll work it out, and now we're going to automate it. You know what? We might get some of our development friends who love doing automation development and stuff, because we'll collaborate together for that common goal. We've decided that automated testing is part of development. So we'll build up a suite of automated tests to know if things are broken by that new development. It is very slow and very unrealistic to regression test the whole system manually with every new feature. Trust me, I've been there. I don't want you to be there. The other part of this is we need to look at code review. Pull requests should just be second nature. I work with one of the best developers I've ever met in my life, and that person still does a pull request, and I still freak out because I have to look at their code and I step through it, and you know what? Once in a while I find it. And if I don't find it, then at least the tests that we run later on as part of the deploy do find it. But pull requests are really good. Having a peer review, again, means that you're aligned. And I understand some of the stuff that they're working on, and they'll understand some of the stuff I'm working on. I should have just called the session Collaboration is Vital for DevOps success. The third way that Gene talks about is continual experimentation and learning. And the thing is, I really enjoy what Gene does, but I suffer from slight OCD. I would have actually put this, failure, it's an option. Because, the 3 Fs, but also, if you're doing everything perfectly, there's always going to be new challenges, new people, new tech, new project realities, whatever. So you've got to experiment. You've got to have a culture where it is okay to take small risks, to break things, to fail. Because I'm going to fail in my prod-like system, that little system that I built from source control, that I seeded with referential data from source control. There's a great utility, data generator by Redgate. It has been awesome because you can now seed your system. Throw your new feature, throw your new code, whatever. Throw your new deployment process, because we've got to test that stuff out as well. And if it fails, brilliant. This is awesome, because I do want to fail. Way down in my continuous integration environment, my build environment, my functional test environment, and I want to celebrate lots in production. So you need a culture, you need the infrastructure, right? So if you haven't looked at Terraform, if you haven't looked at Ansible, desired state configuration, or plain old ARM templates if you're using Azure, or whatever it is, so that you can build your environments and just break them. And then have the confidence that you can deploy to prod and do it blindfolded. So, what are some of the cultural wins for dev by getting on board with DevOps? So, fast deployments and this whole feedback loops actually get to the heart and soul of what developers want. You know, code written on my laptop gets out into the user's hands much faster, and we can do rapid iterations, and more importantly, we can improve things faster because things happen, right? Things go bump in the night. So we have this quicker resolution of bugs. And we have a better workflow, because one of the things is that when we're looking at our lead times, and lead time calculation, I love Kanban because it's based around metrics and mathematics and really cool things. And don't worry, it's really easy mathematics. It's something over something. It's Conway's law. It's really easy. You look at throughput, you look at number of items and work that are in work in progress, and then you look at lead time. So 3 things. If you can't do that, yeah, okay. If I can, you can. But we look at how often are we deploying now versus then. Our deployment's becoming easier and faster because we want delivery of value. We want to do it in a sustainable way and a way that ensures quality as well. So developers love this stuff, right? Let's talk to the tough crowd, the ops people. And I used to be an ops manager. I was an ops purist. So when I heard about this DevOps thing, I was like, come on. I'll just keep going back to clicking next, and someone telling me that apparently the server and web server and all these things are not right. What's DevOps mean for me? Well, the cultural wins is that uptime is better. It means that I may be able to meet my service level requirements better. And more importantly, my mean time to recover is a whole heap better as well, because if I'm embracing things like infrastructure as code, if I'm actually storing the changes that I am doing to servers in code, and the deployments are being done via small iterative releases to very similar environments, then when it comes time to recover, I actually know what it looks like, what the last known good state is, and I have a standard approach. I wrote a blog post, the 20-second rule, why standards matter, because I spend most of my time defining standards in the ways of how we connect our apps together, how our apps connect to our database, so that at 3 a.m, when you have to diagnose a fault, you don't spend 2 hours trying to remember where the config file was or what user connected to the database. You can do it in 20 seconds, and I timed it, and it works. So being able to resolve things quicker and having our failure rates decrease because we have iterative releases through our environments means that we can enable our developers to deploy far more actively, and we're breaking down the barriers associated with speed and reliability. How often do poor DBAs get labeled, what's the first answer out of a DBA's mouth? No, I don't want that. And here's the deal. If I said to you, would you like to keep working at 3 a.m. doing deploys that are really horrible? Or, as I said before, go along to stand-ups or create standard environments. Yes, it will take you a while to work out how to do this, but if the upshot is at 3 a.m. in the morning, you can choose what you're doing instead of your phone going off and your manager deciding what you're doing, trust me, the working life gets better. It means that you're actually going away from wasteful rework, from wasteful manual work, and doing better, innovative, or higher value activities. One of the things I did with my staff was when we got back some of the time, because I used to have people not at work at 9 a.m. or 8 a.m. in the morning, depending when they started, because they had been working on the previous night, and I was a nice leader. I wasn't really a manager. And I would say to them, okay, if you're working from 3 until 7 a.m., I don't want to see you before lunchtime. You need some sleep. And they would come to work, and then the first thing I would say to them is, let me know when you want to spend time with your family or when you want to take some time off, because you need that time back. So time in lieu in my department was huge, but my staff morale was also huge because I cared about them. But I didn't really care about them enough to keep spending money unnecessarily. And so what we did was we cut that time in lieu, and we actually got time back. And so eventually I said to them, I want you to work on training yourself up. So I used to book meetings with them, give them a laptop, and walk out of a room and say, you're not leaving this room till you train yourself up. That sounds pretty draconian, but I knew that if I left them to their own devices in that particular environment, they would just look for more work and more work. I was like, no, I want you to spend 2 hours. You can, go and learn how to be a better DBA or a better ops person. And they got on board because they knew that I did it because I cared about them. And if it meant that they might eventually leave because they got better skilled, I didn't really care. That's why I'm a leader, not a manager. Anyway, so let's talk about collaboration, communication, and common sense. One of the things we need to do, and I talked about this before, our technical people, they love tools. They understand how to make stuff go. But we've got to define it. We've got to translate it up to a business case, because often you will be the only person who knows what DevOps is, or more importantly, what the importance and the wins, the benefits of DevOps are. So you need to build a business case. I'm going to give you a hint. I'm going to give you 2 hints. One, Kendra has written an awesome presentation on building a building a business case for DevOps. I've presented on it as well at Redgate events. It was really awesome because it helps people translate that technical vision into business alignment. Back in the day, I bought a tool, Octopus Deploy, and I convinced management that we needed to buy Octopus Deploy because in those days we were doing heaps of things manually. And I tied it to time in lieu. Our time in lieu budget was huge. To buy Octopus Deploy was not much at all. So we bought Octopus Deploy, and time in lieu was now nil, associated deployments. And so I presented that in such a way that, the senior management can look at it. I'm just making their job easier. But more importantly, I'm aligning them with what we need to do. And the thing is, like many of IT leaders, you're asked to not only deliver more products, services, what have you, than ever before, but you've got to do it with greater speed and quality. You can deploy really fast, but if you don't do it properly, your quality is going to be terrible. DevOps, how to deliver bugs to production quicker than ever before. So we've got to look at what is the why. And we've got to start small. So we need to start small in our tooling choice, in our process, but we also have to start small with cultural shift. And we honestly, you've got to, if you just turn up to work on Monday or whenever you're at work and say, hey, we're doing DevOps, you're not going to get people on board. I talked about the 50% who won't even know about it. 25% are just not going to be engaged. You need a compelling answer to the questions, why should we do this and why now? And again, if you start small with the cultural shift, just start selling DevOps to the people it matters to the most. And by winning over small groups with very specific projects, you'll actually create promoters who are going to help, get the understanding of DevOps elsewhere within your organization. And it's just a multiplier effect. When I bought Octopus Deploy and we got our deployments automated and reliable and repeatable and all those great things, guess what? The other teams were like, hey, can we have some of that good stuff? And it just organically grew. We started really small. First thing I ever did in Octopus Deploy for a database was to automate the backup. That's it. You can't get much smaller than that. But at that time, we had no recoverability if something went wrong in the deploy, because the app deploy worked in Octopus, yay. But the database stuff actually required an email to a help desk and they'd kick off the backup. Yeah, whatever. And celebrate the wins. That small win. The first time we had a deploy where the application, the Octopus Deploy kicked off that automated backup of the database and then did the application code deploy, we celebrated it because it was awesome, because we knew that we were starting off on a journey that was going to be absolutely brilliant. And on the flip side, as I said before, embrace the failures. So I used to have a saying, I want to fail lots in CI, continuous integration, and celebrate lots in prod. And we actually put a step in our Octopus Deploy, which at the end of the deploy, when all the tests and everything passed, because we used to test our prod systems after the deploy to make sure it was all okay. So you can test in prod, by the way. The very last thing would be an email to management saying, you all need to buy us beer. We eventually had to take it out because we moved from once a week deploys to like deploying continuously through the day, and even HR said, well, you can't drink on the job. Alrighty. What does the culture of success look like? Part of this is we're going to improve your product development cycles, because we're going to get new features. We're going to get new products to market faster. We're going to release with lesser bugs, with fewer bugs. There we go. We're going to experiment more, and we're going to incrementally deliver small changes that we know will pass the test. Small change, I can peer review. I can peer review 5 lines of code. I can't peer review 5,000 lines of code. And the upshot is we're going to drive more customer engagement and increase their satisfaction and their experience, because our deploys are going to work when we deploy out to prod. Yeah, they're going to fail lots over here, but when it comes to prod, we know it will work, and it will work every single time. And the thing is, when we reinvest the human time, the creativity and energy saved by reducing rework and downtime means that we can innovate more and we can have great business results. It means that our return on investment is going to be so high, because the tools don't cost that much. But when you can align it with metrics associated with time in lieu, with rework, wasteful manual things, you're onto a winner. And the importance of being able to innovate and create future value, right? So moving to new tech, moving, I don't know, from MVC to Angular. I don't know, I'm not an app developer. But being able to make changes within our database, going to green, blue, yellow deploys. I'm colorblind, I can never remember what it is. But being able to have deployments to our database with zero downtime because we can innovate more. That is a great thing. And it should never be understated. Alrighty, coming up to last bits. So we don't want to have this anymore. This is the past. We want less of this. And these two teams share two common characteristics. One, they communicate very little. And two, I hate to say this, they kind of hate each other. The code grenade comes over the wall. The ops person's like, I hate deploying this stuff that breaks. The dev thinks, why do ops always say no? And I realize this is a bit dramatic. And I'm sure, but here's the deal. I think that you've seen it in action. Ops break things just as much as devs do. Testers complain about the low quality of the deliverables from incompetent developers. And ops are frustrated by arbitrary obstacles or code grenades thrown at them by a security architect or whatever. And architects frustrated with the ad hoc business decisions. And the business frustrated with a failing project. So we don't want this. We want to move towards this. We want to have helping hands on a journey of togetherness. So you might be thinking, this is a great session, Hamish, or you might actually be thinking, this is okay. How do I learn more? Go and look up anything by Dora, the DevOps Research Association, or Puppet State of DevOps. They do a report every year. Or we're all database people. My good friends at Redgate do a State of Database DevOps, and it's awesome because it's got so many data points in it, and it goes and talks to people in the industry, and it presents it to you in such a way that it's not only readable, understandable, but it will empower you to make a change and to get some helping hands. This is the wrong step, but that's okay. This is supposed to be a unicorn because you're probably saying to yourself, Hamish, what you've been talking about is just, it fits for unicorn companies. It doesn't fit for us. Here's the deal. A unicorn is pretty much just a donkey wearing a party hat. And I want to party with the donkeys because we're going to have fun. And I've seen a donkey. I've yet to see a unicorn out, in real life. So don't be put off. Don't think, I can't do this. It's the unicorn thingy-majiggy. Party with the donkeys. Let's chat about culture. Do we have any questions? I don't know
we do have some questions that have come in. That is Riot. I love the donkey slide. The donkey is inspiring in a really weird way.
I know. So the reason why I said, that's not the slide. There was a slide of the unicorn, but it probably got removed because of trademark because I did rip it off the internet.
Sometimes slides just don't upload, but I actually think that's the perfect thing to say is to claim that there should be a unicorn there. Like, you should keep that.
Yeah. Yeah,
I have live Penguin Cam on behind me, which I thought could add a certain agile flair, awkwardly agile. We have some questions though, which are important. So Tomas has a question, and I love this question so much. So first, hi Hamish, big fan. So I'm trying to push DevOps in our company, and while I can see the immediate benefits, others want me to come up with a complete solution. But I'm lacking the knowledge to come up with a complete solution until I try. It seems like a catch-22. How do I approach this?
I have some good news for you. So the good news is it's 2020 and it's not 2010 or 2010. Why do I keep? Yeah, anyway, so 2010. The reason why I say that is because you've got to have a proof of concept. And back in the day, my proof of concept, I had to get desktops and I had to find old servers and I had to install software and I had to do this, that, and the other and get trial versions, this, that, whatever. And the thing is, the reason why I say it's better in 2020 is that you can containerize a whole heap of stuff these days. And so it's a lot easier to get that proof of concept going. Excuse me. I'm not saying that you should go out and get a container and this, that, and the other, because that may actually be a learning curve for you that you may not have enough time for. But I think one of the excuse me. I think one of the main things you need to do is look at what the end game is and decide who. Well, first of all, the why you need to get there. And often it is because the deployments are manual, disjointed, and horrible. That's a pretty easy why. But the next question is the who. Who can help you? Or who do you think will be engaged alongside you? And if you can come up with the why, it's really easy to tell the who, the why. Oh my goodness, I feel like I'm in a Dr. Seuss book. But the thing is you've got to start small. Honestly, even if you're just automating one thing, often, people say, choose the hardest thing. I'm more of the opinion because I'm kind of lazy and, I have the attention span of a goldfish that doesn't even have an attention span. I want to start with something that I know I can at least achieve. And then I'm going to celebrate it and I'm going to show people. And the right-minded people are going to see why we did that. Automating a backup, honestly, I'd been a DBA for 10 years. And I said to my manager, hey, guess what? I automated a backup. Yeah. However, yeah, we're paying you what? But I had tied it in to the end goal, the why. And for us at the time, we had a huge risk where we had application deploys going on all the time and the database was slowly coming along. Huge risk. But by just having that one little thing, it just kick-started it. So back in the day, I had to... Oh, sorry. Yes, Kendra.
So this ties into the next question we've got. So I kind of wanted to set in the next question because I think you're right. There's kind of two directions that I've seen that these DevOps transformations can take. At times, there is the organization where at the executive level, they decide we're all in on this and we want to do this across all the teams. But that's different than what we're talking about here. What we're talking about here is the other direction this can happen in, which is much more grassroots. And when you are in that grassroots situation, proof of concept is effective, starting small is effective, so there's different strategies depending on what direction it's moving in your company. And the next question from Bearded DevOps, McBeard DevOps, you can guess who this is. This is Rob Sewell. Spoiler, it's Rob Sewell. He asks, should technicians be forcing the changes in a corporate environment, or should they find a manager to do this?
I love this question. I just got to say one thing, and quick plug. We're running the DevOps virtual group tomorrow, 7 a.m. New Zealand time. So I'm going to bed. I'm going to speak at 5 a.m. New Zealand time and then run a DevOps thingy-majiggy at 7 a.m. with my good friend, Rob Sewell. So here's the deal. My opinion is that you need to collaborate. And it ties in with what you just said. And the reason why I come at it from grassroots, because I used to be a senior manager. And so it was really easy for me to go, hey, we're going to do this. But y'all not me. And in fact, I never said, we are going to do this. I talk to people. And that's why, I was okay as a manager. The thing is it's around the alignment of the goal. And so the first thing I did, remember when I talked about the time and lieu thing where I got that? First thing I did, I went and talked to a salesperson. And I said to them, can you help me? Because I need to present this to management, and you are used to lying and telling people half-truths. I'm sorry. But you know what I mean, right? They are used to selling things. I am not. Ones and zeros are my game.
So I do have to say, so at Redgate, we practice something called ethical selling, but I know exactly what you mean, because I have like early in my career when I worked with salespeople, thank goodness we didn't have video cameras, because the amount of times they would promise things that didn't exist, it was like, how many times per minute did that happen? That I am so happy that's not part of my life anymore.
Actually, I've met the salespeople at Redgate, and that's why some of them are my friends. But I talked to a salesperson and got a sponsor.
Yeah.
Because
go for it.
Because you need a sponsor, you need to again translate it, and you need a manager to help you, because they are going to be able to get people on board at a higher level than you. And I always come at these from the grassroots, because I want people to have the things at their disposal to bridge the gap, because there will be a gap, because senior management will not always understand what DevOps is. Senior management won't have an idea of what they want to do for the clients. And so, again, it's bringing that together. And you might not be able to do that. You might be really good at doing the ones and zeros. But if you can find someone who is a translator, and for me it was a salesperson, because I had to do a sales pitch. And I make light of salespeople because it's easy to do. I'm an operations person. But you can't do this on your own. If you try and do it on your own, you've just built a new silo. And that's not what DevOps and culture is about. It is about collaborating. So if you ask a manager or a sponsor within your company to help you and they won't, that says more about them than you. Find a new person or give me a call. I'll help you for free to help coach you in what you need to say to management. All right. It's been awesome.
Thanks so much, Hamish. I just advanced this to the next slide so folks can see Hamish's contact info. If you're watching this, he is on Twitter. He has a blog. He has a hashtag, Make Stuff Go, as well as an email address.